Welcome to Biz Lounge. Our guest on today's show heads the oldest stock exchange in Asia. Ashish Chauhan, who's been MD and CEO of the Bombay Stock Exchange since November 2012, joins us today. Ashish, thanks for joining us today. Before we start our discussion with Ashish, here's a look at the legacy of the BSE.
BSE is one of the oldest institutions in India. It was set up in 1875 and it was set up as a native share and stockbrokers association, which is very, very interesting because it's native as opposed to the British, and so it has a huge nationalist sort of flavor attached to it. Today BSE is amongst the largest exchanges in the world in terms of the market capitalization. It has more than $1.3 trillion of market capitalization listed on itself, and that is the wealth of the nation. When India became independent, India was a socialist republic if you look at our constitution, and this is basically in a sense the temple of capitalism, and it has been allowed to function even post-independence continuously, which didn't happen in many socialist countries. They closed down their stock exchange, as well as BSE was allowed to run continuously by Government of India.
So the Bombay Stock Exchange is Asia's oldest exchange, but your younger rival, the National Stock Exchange, has 80% of market share. Tell us what you're doing to catch up.
In a sense, the way one looks at it is that the BSE is the largest exchange in the world in terms of the number of stocks listed. So it's about which angle you look at. You can look at it on the trade angle, where BSE might be slightly behind. You can look at the public service that it does, because ultimately the function of a stock exchange is to provide what we call squeaky clean prices to the market. If we had a good market share in terms of trading, it would have been nice, but we do have a good market share in all the stocks. We have 5,200 stocks traded. We do have the offer for sale where we have almost 80-90% market share. SMEs, small and medium sector enterprises, for which we started a platform last year, we have 90% market share. So for me, it's more about doing good job for the society, and if you get volumes, which has to be a byproduct. It cannot be a measure on which an exchange should try to sort of conduct itself.
The exchanges are very competitive amongst themselves, but what is the role of the exchange to the public, and what do you see the role of the exchange in modern day India?
The way we look at it is that India needs to develop a framework for creating jobs. Over the next 20 years, India needs to create 1.5 crore new jobs every year. 30 crore new jobs need to get created. And for that, productive capital formation is the only way out. When you invest in stock markets, all your money goes into creation of capital for setting up companies, getting jobs, and so on and so forth, even in SME. And for me, that is basically the primary role of an exchange.
You've also been trying to increase trading volumes by introducing a number of liquidity measures. So tell us more about that, and if there's any permanent solution to gain back your market share.
The way we look at it is basically the BSE was the market leader before NSE came, and because of the way the overall framework worked, at some point in time when the derivatives were allowed in India, BSE didn't participate in setting up derivatives market in a sort of wholehearted way, and so for almost 10 years BSE didn't have derivatives from 2001, 2002 to 2011. Over last 1.5-2 years, we created a framework with the approval of the regulator to basically create that incentives for people to trade in derivatives, and today we have again reached almost 15-20% market share in that.
And the National Stock Exchange had an association with the S&P, which it doesn't anymore, and now BSE has an association with it. So how do you plan on leveraging the S&P, and what's the benefit?
The way we look at it is the BSE brand name itself. I mean, if you ask anyone, any corner of India, what is an exchange, they will say BSE, right? So in a sense, BSE's own brand name is very, very popular. On top of that, when S&P comes in, it's not only S&P, it's actually S&P Dow Jones. The two largest index companies got merged, and so for us this relationship has many benefits, but most importantly it brings the BSE Sensex, BSE 100 and many other products on the forefront of the investing community mindset in India and abroad.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you are also planning on taking the BSE public through an IPO. What are your plans now?
We have been planning. In fact, part of the regulatory framework has been changed last year to allow exchanges to go public. However, in terms of the details, I have been told our investment bankers not to speak basically on our IPO till the time IPO actually happens. So my apologies on not being able to divulge more details.
When will it happen?
Again, that would depend on all the permissions and when we are ready.
And the BSE has also been cutting commissions to attract customers. But tell us what you're doing to attract customers through more innovative products and services.
The way we look at it is some of the most interesting ideas are basically about the past. But even more interesting is about what you do with the life that is evolving around you. For example, tomorrow we are launching exclusive trading on BSE on Facebook. So how do you sort of connect to the youth in the country, right? I mean, there are various ways, but and we do a huge amount of investor awareness campaigns. We do around 2,000 direct investor awareness programs across the country. We meet 200,000 individual shareholders, but effectively, how do I take current penetration of 1.5% to 2% of Indian population investing in Indian stock markets to say 30% in the next 20 years? And that has to be done by evolving with times, evolving with the way society is evolving.
And how do you view international exchanges? Do you see them as competition?
For me, again, if we think the job of India for next 20 years is to create jobs, then we need to be more worried about getting capital available to the companies that require that capital to grow, right? And for me, if that capital, we as an exchange or as exchanges in India are able to generate that capital, well and good. If we are not able to gather that capital for those companies, and if they are able to gather it from outside, I should, for my own business, so that other countries' exchanges don't take away my business, I should not be stopping the companies from growing. I should also work to ensure that it is done, the capital is formed or capital is gathered outside for Indian companies to grow in India in a more disciplined, but not as a competition to us, but as a complement to the Indian exchanges.
Great. Okay, Ashish, we have to take a quick break here.
Thank you.
Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Biz Lounge, and we're with the head of the Bombay Stock Exchange. But before we continue our conversation, here's a look at how Ashish leads an organization with a 138-year-old history.
By basically age 17, I was sort of admitted into IIT Bombay. And so I did mechanical engineering there. And then I joined IIM Calcutta for MBA. And that was between 1989 and 91. When I came out, I joined IDBI, which was a public financial institution in those days. And that time, IDBI was told to set up NSE. So I was one of the 5 people who were sort of selected to set up NSE.
Tough time is what actually motivates all of us. That's how he has been grooming us, that if there is nothing to be learned every single day, then there is no point being here.
He is able to motivate us in the sense that there are very clear directions as to how we are going to move forward. At the same time a kind of iterative effort. He also takes inputs from us, but we are able to see a clear way forward. And that in itself is a motivation that, you're working towards a certain goal.
you have to be careful where you sit in a room with Ashish if there's a cricket game on the television. So if you're talking to him and the TV is behind you, you're never going to be able to get his eye contact. So, but I think he's clearly, follows cricket very, very, very closely.
You're still pretty new in your current role as CEO, but prior to this, you were Deputy CEO from 2009. Tell us how you have evolved as a leader and how you plan on taking it further.
In a sense, I have been in a CEO role in some or other place sort of activities for last almost 12-15 years. But running BSE is a very different activity because it is a public function, and public function with a very large importance in a way that the entire nation's wealth is sort of being traded every day, every moment, and you can't make a single mistake because any mistake you make, or knowingly or unknowingly, has a large impact on many people, and that makes you a lot humble. Given my sort of past experiences, and now I think I've got a little more gray hair now, and more caution.
What would you say is the toughest part of your job?
I think the toughest part is basically traveling. I kind of want to think about, implement, execute, talk to people, get their feedback, and traveling becomes an essential part of this kind of a job, where you need to meet a lot of people, which is a good idea, but to sort of have late nights, early mornings, and that probably is a bit of, but I'm learning, I'm kind of adjusting.
What's the one thing you really enjoy about your job?
I think slowly I'm learning to enjoy traveling, in a sense, not to be sort of taken up by the travails of travel, but somewhere slowly I think I'm growing into the travel activities. So slowly probably visit temples when you go to a remote place, or and sort of try to merge it with some religious activities, but that's how I'm trying to sort of ensure things remain enjoyable.
And have you made any changes to the organization since taking over from more from a cultural perspective?
Absolutely. See, BSE used to be what we call an association of persons till 2005. In 2007, it became a corporate with private shareholders. Till the time, 100% was owned by brokers. And then in 2007, 51% was sold out to non-brokers. And so for 130 years of its life, it was an association of persons. So the entire methodology of the organization was very different. It was attuned to a different kind of sort of signaling. And now when we have to sort of become corporate, which is competing with newcomers who are very aggressive, also the old people who are very successful, and so you need to become a corporate, but without losing on the continuity, because you need to also maintain that service standards, the levels, and you need to upgrade people's capabilities and skill set so that they are able to go and compete with everyone in the market, come out with newer products, newer distribution frameworks, and chat up with just feedback gathering sessions and so on and so on. So somewhere we had to also take a lot of people from outside. Today, BSE being the way it was earlier, not many people took it as a serious career option. But in last 1 year, we have got several people from competition, from multinationals, from India and abroad. We have people from IID, IIM backgrounds joining BSE. And so we are trying to create a framework which is sort of meritocratic and allows people to do the job with complete authority. And there are periodic reviews. And so it's becoming, or it has rather become a corporate. And still it has to evolve in that direction much more, because if it has to survive and grow for next 138 years, it needs to find that way to attract the new talent, ensure the current talent you have, you keep them, you hone them, you nurture them, you give them additional sort of responsibilities, and whoever is able to take it, you kind of celebrate that success, and that's what we continue to do every day.
Great. Okay, Ashish, we have to take another quick break here. But don't go away. We'll be right back. You're watching Biz Lounge, and we're with the head of the Bombay Stock Exchange. But before we continue our chat, here's a look at how Ashish unwinds during his free time.
My wife is a radiologist. I mean, I have an 11-year-old son. My wife works on Saturdays also, so I also travel on weekends. But effectively, the life revolves around the child, So effectively, if he wants to go for a robotics class or for a cricket match or for a movie, so most of the weekends are dedicated to the child's activities. We go to Ahmedabad. In fact, Ahmedabad is my hometown, so going home is very important. So these are, our life is about going to temples or going to Ahmedabad, going to my wife's village. So it's more about staying in touch with family when you get time. I read a lot of magazines, a lot of books, and practically every week I read new books. Reading is like an addiction. So when I was young, large part of my salary used to go in buying books. Now I buy the same number of books, only thing is that salary has gone up.
So Ashish, tell us about where you grew up and something about your childhood.
I grew up in Ahmedabad. I was born and brought up in Ahmedabad. My mother used to work as an inspector in sales tax department. She was a gold medalist in economics. My father is an engineer and used to work for the PWD for government of Gujarat, and he had to move around. So mother was the constant presence. Father was once in a while he would come back home. But we were a large joint family, so we had a lot of cousins and everyone. And so it was a kind of a very happy childhood in a middle class locality. And I studied in vernacular medium till age 17, till 12th class as we call it. And then because at home nobody spoke English. And I mean in Gujarati was the only medium of education except to very few. So and till 12th, I mean even science is taught in Gujarati in Gujarat. So when I got into IIT, it was tough, sort of reading and speaking, and both took sort of a lot of time for me to get adjusted to.
What kind of student were you?
Yeah, so I was not a very sincere student till age 17, even probably till age 21, but I could easily crack exams without being too much studious in a sense of that. But I used to be very playful. I used to play cricket for probably all colonies around my sort of residence. And so I was more into playing and enjoying life at young age. But and at the same time studies, because parents were both highly educated. So study was also an important part. And I used to score very heavily.
Who did you look up to when you were growing up?
I kind of had a lot of heroes in like every young boy would have. So like Sunil Gavaskar was one of the heroes. So once we were going to do a toss in South Africa, me and Sunil both, and I told him, Sunil, I have been your friend. I mean, I have been your fan since childhood, and my younger brother's name is Sunil because of you. Because I insisted that his name has to be Sunil Gavaskar. I mean, Sunil. So that's how. When you are young, you have different heroes when you grow up. So there have been many influences, including my teachers. Some of them took care of me because I didn't know English. They nurtured me.
Name one thing that not a lot of people know about you.
Yeah, my what I call Gujjuness is something. People take me because of my surname. They take me as a North Indian, but I am a Gujarati, and now I don't have that accent which I used to have. I mean, my name when I joined IIT, people used to ask me, what is your name? And I would say Ashishs. And So now it's Ashish, right? So
Right.
I have changed myself a lot, but effectively it's still a lot of Gujjuness there.
And if you ever won the lottery, what would you do?
I'll still be the same. I mean, I have made a lot of money. I have seen a lot of money I have made, but I have not been impressed by money, frankly. I kind of been impressed more. When I look back at life, it's more about contributing to the society, doing something which is useful to people around you rather than having a lot of money.
What bad habit would you break if it would guarantee that you could live to 100?
Yeah, in some sense, I had a lot of bad habits, like all Gujjus. I used to chew tobacco. I used to also drink, but I kind of left that 18 years back. I don't even have alcohol now.
Can you describe the greatest adventure that you've ever been on?
I have had a lot of adventures, including getting into IIT, because when I got in, I didn't know English speaking, right? And around you, everyone spoke English, and you were feeling a little sort of vague about it, saying, why am I here? Because I already got admissions into medicine in Ahmedabad and in engineering, the branch I wanted, and so I thought, let me go back home. So after doing 2 or 3 weeks in IIT, I thought, okay, let me go back home. And when I went and attended one day in the medicine class and one day in engineering, I said, no, probably I should not run away. And so I went back to IIT. And so from that day onwards, I mean, I've been on hikes. I had never been on hikes before, and I've gone to reasonably good heights before. And so whenever you are afraid, you want to break it, you know. So whether in business, whether in sort of personal life. And so I have tried to take things in stride. So now, in some sense, there is, I mean, for me, life has been an adventure, and God has kind of guided me in doing that. As far as you are clean in your mind, if you're conscientious, things get taken care of. And if it doesn't, it's fine. I mean, probably you were not meant to do that.
Any one cause that you feel passionate about?
I think job creation is a very important cause for me and for India. We need to create those 1.5 crore new jobs every year for next 20 years. And whatever needs to be done for creation of those jobs, because the demographic dividend, which we kind of are hoping to come, cannot come if we don't create or facilitate the activities by youth, because otherwise the youth can go into different direction. And I have seen that while growing up in Gujarat, in Navnirman movement, and later on in the anti sort of communal riots and so on and so forth. For me, a large part of this, the anger which spills over onto the field, into the streets, comes out of joblessness. So if you are able to create jobs for the youth and sort of excel, for me, large part of India's issues which we see going forward, I see going forward, can be resolved. If we can't, then we'll have to worry a lot about how to keep them occupied meaningfully.
Okay, Ashish, well, we're out of time, but it was so great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's it for today. We'll see you next time on Biz Lounge.